Welcome to Impact Makers Radio, featuring industry thought leaders sharing problem-solving insights to help grow your business and live the life you love. And here's your host, Stewart Andrew Alexander.
Hi, and welcome to another Let's Talk Divorce conversation. And on this segment of the show, ladies and gentlemen, I'm very pleased to say that we have family law attorney Cathy J. Pollak, partner of the Price Meese Shulman D'Arminio PC from Woodcliff Lake, New Jersey. Now, Cathy, who is considered to be a leader in the area of family law, will be talking to you today about researching the divorce process that works for your situation. So, if you are one of the many people in the Woodcliff Lake, New Jersey area who are seeking counsel and are wanting to know more about today's topic, it might be a good idea for you just to take a break, down tools, log out of Facebook or anything else that you happen to be doing which may cause a distraction. And you may even want to grab a notepad and pen and take some notes as you listen into what Cathy has to share with us today. So, with that said, she's a very busy lady. Let's not keep her waiting any longer. Welcome to the show, Cathy.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning to you as well. Thank you for taking the time out of your busy day to come and speak with us. Let's jump feet first in, Cathy. The water is lovely. It's fine. Okay. In your own words, Cathy, briefly describe the kinds of people who you serve and the various types of situations they find themselves in when they come to you for your help.
Fine. I serve a diverse population, and my clients vary from those who want to immediately go to court, those who have already been served with a divorce complaint, to those who don't want to jump into those treacherous waters of litigation and are seeking alternative forms of resolving their case rather than litigation.
Okay, then, Cathy, now that we have an idea of who you help, it goes without saying that anything you share with us from this point on is not legal advice or legal assistance. It's purely for the purpose of disseminating information. Can we both agree on that today, then, Cathy?
Yes.
Absolutely. So, with that said, while you're out there working with this wide array of clients that you help, what's the most common misconception that you come across on a regular basis?
The most common misconception, Stewart, is that litigation is required to get a divorce. Ultimately, every case must be filed in court for the parties to get a divorce. However, I think most people don't realize that there are multiple processes by which parties can achieve their goal without litigation. They run from, and this can be true for any case, simple or complex. And these other processes that are not litigation, we put them into a generic term called alternative forms of dispute resolution. And I can speak about each type of process if you want me to go into those processes.
Please do. If you can briefly go over that, I'm sure that's going to be very helpful for our listeners. Please do.
So it's almost like picking from a menu. So you have the litigation menu, which most people believe is the only way to go. And then you have a form of dispute resolution called mediation. And what is mediation? That is when the parties, either with or without attorneys, go to a third-party neutral who helps to facilitate the resolution of their case. It's very important for people to understand that a mediator cannot represent both parties. Mm-hmm. The mediator is only used as a facilitator. And if the mediation process is successful, people then either hire attorneys or some go on their own, we call it pro se, and get divorced. Another form of alternate dispute resolution is what I call cooperative divorce. And what is that? That is when a client will come in, retain me, and they tell me that their spouse has an attorney already or may not. In that situation, I contact the other attorney, and we decide that we're going to try to, what we call, negotiate a settlement of the parties' cases before going to court. So that's called cooperative process. Mm-hmm. The other process is called collaborative. And what is the difference between cooperative and collaborative? There is a very big difference. And the difference is that when people engage in the collaborative divorce process, they have to sign, along with their respective attorneys, a participation agreement. And that participation agreement says that if the parties cannot work together in a collaborative fashion to settle their case, they ultimately have to part ways with their attorneys and hire new attorneys to engage in the litigation process. So that's kind of a brief summary of what these alternative forms of dispute resolution are.
Okay, so based on what you just shared with us then, Cathy, and obviously keeping your client's confidentiality in mind, please share an example or even a case study, so to speak, of how you've helped or even how you would go about helping somebody who comes to you with those challenges, all those misconceptions that you just described, and what kind of transformational results you were able to or would be able to gain for them.
Well, it's very important when I have my initial consultation with a client to find out the level of conflict that they're experiencing in their specific situation. Mm-hmm. And so it's almost conducting a litmus test, because there are some cases that are not what I would call ripe for an alternative dispute resolution process, given the high level of conflict. But when people come into me and we have that initial interview and they're saying to me, I don't want to go to court, I want to try to settle this in an amicable manner, that's when we start discussing alternative resolutions. So I had a case recently where one party was a very high wage earner. It was a long-term marriage, and the other party had been a stay-at-home mom for about 30 years. The stay-at-home mom was already represented by an attorney, and when I was retained by my client, I contacted the attorney of the stay-at-home mom. And we had a good, I would say, relationship in terms of we had known each other for many years and had many cases together, and that often is very helpful in resolving a case because there's some level of trust with the other attorney. And I'm going to digress a little bit. Some litigants, some clients don't realize that. It's better for attorneys to get along to ultimately resolve their case also. So in that particular case, the other attorney and myself, with our respective clients, we negotiated a cutoff date agreement, which provided the parties with a cutoff date to determine the division of assets and spousal support rather than filing a divorce complaint, which would then set the cutoff date. And we were able to exchange in that situation all pertinent financial documentation necessary to evaluate that case, even without being in court. Each party obtained an expert appraiser to value the marital residence. Over the course of the negotiations in the case, we reached an impasse, but we didn't give up. What we did was, instead of running to court, we agreed on the use of a mediator. So we mutually agreed upon a mediator who was an attorney, and with the parties, we went to a mediation session. And that mediation session helped break the impasse. We ultimately negotiated a comprehensive marital settlement agreement. The agreement was signed, and then a divorce complaint was filed where the parties were divorced, without having to go through the experience and the stress of going through the traditional litigation process.
So, ladies and gentlemen, as a reminder, my guest today is family law attorney Cathy J. Pollak, partner of Price Meese Shulman D'Arminio PC in Woodcliff Lake, New Jersey. And she's here today talking about researching the divorce process that works for your situation. Now, with that in mind, Cathy, and for those people who are tuning in right now, please share one common but unknown pitfall that they need to be aware of, regardless of what situation they find themselves in.
I would say this: when you are discussing the topic of investigating the divorce process, it's buyer beware. In terms of if you are going to engage in these alternative dispute resolution processes, you have to be aware that you do not have the protection of the court. If the parties and the attorneys are not willing to cooperate and be transparent, then alternative dispute resolution will not work. There has to be that level, again, of transparency and cooperation.
Cathy, I'm kind of curious, without going into your background, just tell me, how many years have you been a practicing family law attorney?
Well, Stewart, as of this year, December, it's going to be 41 years.
41 years, so 4 decades. So I can only imagine that in all of those years of being a family law attorney, that you've obviously helped hundreds, possibly thousands of people, right?
I like to think that I have.
Yeah.
Because that's always been my goal, and that's why I was motivated to go into family law so many years ago.
Yeah, I'm sure it's well into thousands of people after 40 years. So when you think about all of those people who you've helped in the past, then, Cathy, what's most important to you about helping those clients to achieve their desired outcomes?
I want to be a constructive force in their lives, not a destructive force. People come to me when they are probably they're most traumatized, emotional, and I see it as my goal to try to ease them through this very traumatic time and to come out of the process with a sense that their life can go on. It has changed, but there is a life after divorce. And I'm also very focused on children and how to come out of this process, even though the family is no longer intact, but the family in some way remains together, with the children having some type of a normal childhood or teenage experience without having to face constant conflict between their parents. So I look at the family as a whole, even though they're no longer intact.
So when you're able to create that transformation from a client that's walked into your office or given you a call and you've sat down with them, you've consulted them, and you've created that transformation from them being totally stressed out to somebody who has gone through their divorce in the way how they wanted to, and they've come out on the other end, the family is intact, they're happy, both parties are getting the most out of the whole process. When you think about those kind of cases where you've really created that transformation, how does that make you feel then, Cathy?
It makes me feel that I've accomplished something positive, that I've made a positive impact on these people's lives. And I haven't destroyed their lives. I've put their interests, their interest to me and their children's interests are paramount. And I pride myself on doing that because I'm very invested in my clients in terms of their, not only in terms of a legal perspective, but in their emotional well-being.
Fantastic. So spend a brief moment telling us a little bit about your background, Cathy, and especially your formal education and your experience as it relates to the topic of family law.
I went to undergraduate school at an all-women's school called Cedar Crest College in Allentown, Pennsylvania. I graduated magna cum laude, and then I went to Rutgers Law School in Newark. And from then, I have been in several law firms, and many years ago, I was mentored by a lawyer who was instrumental in writing the laws of equitable distribution for the state of New Jersey. And after I left that firm, I went into solo practice for many years, where I built a practice there. And I decided that it was time to shake things up in my life. And I had been approached by several law firms to come in and start a family law department. And I did that 2 years ago at Price Meese, and that's where I am today. And in terms of my experience, in terms of my topic, I became a court-appointed mediator in 2002. And I'm certified as that, and I've handled hundreds of cases as a mediator, being appointed by the court in many, many cases. And I also have an extensive private mediation practice. In terms of the collaborative process, I would consider myself to be, I would say, a founding mother of the collaborative divorce process in Northern New Jersey. We founded in Northern New Jersey the second collaborative process group many years ago, and I serve there today still as vice president and board member of that group.
So we are in the presence of collaborative royalty, so to speak.
If only I had a crown, right?
If only. Anyway, listen, Cathy, when you think about those people who come to you seeking counsel and they're wanting to know more about, the right kind of divorce process that works for their particular situation, what final thoughts would you like to leave with those people before we move on to our last question for today?
They have to think carefully about their situation. They have to think carefully about the dynamics between their spouse and whether or not their situation lends itself to alternative dispute resolution. And I also want to emphasize something else, that when people think about divorce, they should not think about a court-focused solution. When they engage in alternative dispute resolution, they are able to take control of the process because they know their own case better than any stranger in a black robe does. And so if they control the process, they can control their lives and not have their lives be dictated by someone who does not know anything about them or their families and who is just another statistic on the court calendar to them.
Cathy, you're so good at this, aren't you? Really.
Thank you.
I mean, it's so good. I feel like, I'm going to get married and file for divorce 6 months later just so that I can be your client.
No. And you're speaking, Stewart, to a woman who's been married for 41 years.
Wow, that's awesome. Congratulations for that. So you must know what you're doing as well in that respect. Okay then, Cathy. So if there is somebody out there who's been listening in today or listening sometime in the future as they listen to the show online, and they want to know more about the divorce process that works for their situation. If that's the case, how can they reach with you? What would be the easiest way for them to reach out to you?
Well, they can certainly call me at my firm's number, which is 201-391-3737, or they can email me at cpollak, that's Pollak, at Price, Price, Meese, Meese.com.
Excellent. And I'll make sure those contact details are on the website below your show notes. However, that's all we have time for today. Once more, ladies and gentlemen, we have been listening to family law attorney Cathy J. Pollak. Thank you so much for sharing so generously with us today, Cathy. You have certainly demonstrated that you are a true educator and advocate for your client's success. So thank you.
Thank you, Stewart. Thank you for the opportunity.
You're so welcome, Cathy. And I just know, I feel it in my bones. We've only begun to scratch the surface today, haven't we?
Yes.
Yeah.
We have.
After 41 years. Well, we've given them a 30,000 foot view. And if anybody needs any more information, they do have your contact details. So with that said, I'd also like to say a big thank you to you, the listener. Without you, we wouldn't have anybody to talk to and we wouldn't have a show. So thank you for joining us on what I can only describe as a very insightful and informative discussion with one of the top family law attorneys in the Woodcliff Lake, New Jersey area today. Again, as a reminder, her name is Cathy J. Pollak. Make sure you do check her out. There's some great resources on the website. Give her a call. Whatever you decide to do, I'm sure after listening to her today, you're certainly going to be in the right place. So that's it for today, folks. Again, I am Stewart Andrew Alexander, and we'll be back shortly with some more leading family law professionals in this, our series of Let's Talk Divorce Conversations. So, until then, take care, have a great day, and we'll talk real soon.
Thank you for tuning in to Impact Makers Radio. To listen to all past, present and future industry thought leaders and trendsetters, visit us at impactmakersradio.com.